Hi, this is Ashish Kotiala. Welcome to the Strategic Marketing Group Conversation. I'd like to introduce Mahesh Kumar on the Competitive Intelligence team, who will be hosting the meeting kindly for our group today. Mahesh, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ashish. Again, welcome to the Strategic Marketing Group Conversation. I will be your moderator today. And if you have, I hope you have seen the presentation and potentially the YouTube video. If you have any questions, please type them in the group conversation agenda document, and I will be there to verbalize and get the appropriate person to answer that for you. Do we have enough attendance already, Helen?
Yeah, so maybe I can ask the first question. I see that there's slide number 7 is about the competitive intelligence. And it says new site replaces Crayon, memorable URL, about gitlab.com/compete. I thought that we already had comparisons on our website. So I'm kind of puzzled why this is not on those pages.
So we do have comparisons. There are two aspects to it. The DevOps tools comparison pages is on our website and externally facing, and this is on our handbook. Mainly the content here is for internal audiences such as sales and marketing and others. So Crayon was meant for our competitive intelligence work that can be public, and this essentially replaces that. So the content would be essentially locked in only for GitLab personnel.
So why can it is public, which is great, but why can't it's public but not public? I don't.
Yeah, it's one of those things where we decided to move away from Crayon because it was very difficult to use, and I think at the last group conversation or some other meeting, we discussed about putting it up on a web page and making it accessible through the website rather than through the handbook, rather than through a proprietary software, and that's the direction we've gone.
Yeah, so I love that it's public. I love that it's on the website. What I don't understand is why we already have a comparison of DevOps tools. Mm-hmm. Why do we need 2 comparisons of DevOps tools?
Yeah.
This is not a comparison. It's more around a comparative strategy around different vendors. How we compete and how we, do better in terms of differentiating ourselves. A lot of this information is also present in the DevOps tools landscape pages. This kind of takes it to probably a slightly different level of detail that may be more easy to consume for sales.
So Sid, if I might add, there are like a few other things in the handbook page. A good example could be an ROI study that was done against a particular vendor with numbers that the customer provided us that they asked us not to make public. And so it might go in there for sales to consume. Another good example might be, something to think about, confidential data that, either the vendor or the customer that we're working with don't want to make public. And then thirdly, it's also in a format that sales sometimes finds it easy to consume to take to their prospects and customers. So we have the occasional need to create a deck, for example. And so we'll create it. Often it might just be the data might just still be coming from comparisons, but there may be additional data that, between sales and customer and, other confidentiality issues, we are not able to make public. So that's why we were doing this in a proprietary tool called Crayon. And we decided that, in the spirit of number one, efficiency, cost savings, and also like trying to make this website first, we should move it to the handbook.
Yeah, so again, I totally support the move from Crayon to public web pages. I don't understand why we have about gitlab.com/compete and about gitlab.com/DevOps tools as separate entities. As you said, lots of information on compete is also present on DevOps tools. And I think it's super hard for us to keep all the information up to date. I continually see stuff that's out of date. And the way to keep stuff up to date is to have a single source of truth, to Have a single page that you maintain. Otherwise, you're maintaining 2 pages, which is a lot more work. It's not even twice as much work. Sometimes it's multiple times as much work because it's unclear what you're updating. And I don't think there's a restriction where we say, oh, DevOps tools cannot contain detailed information. We can, it's our site. We can be as detailed as we want. No one's going to complain if we add too much, if we add detail to there. And if they do, you can send them to me. It's our site. We can go into detail. And I think detail is great. I think actually from DevOps tools, the detail has been lacking a bit. So I would welcome that detail there.
Sure, thanks for the feedback. We can take a decision moving forward, and we want to consolidate into one portion. There will always be an element of certain pieces of data we cannot make public. So maybe we can link to it from the same page, but not make it public. So we'll take that input into consideration, Sid. And
sorry, Ashish, I don't think, because you keep mentioning the non-public information, like both of these pages are public. So I don't see how that is a factor in consolidating these pages.
Sure, both of these pages are public, but one of them has content that's kind of password protected. Unless you're a GitLab employee, you cannot see it.
Yeah, and we can keep having that, and that is fine. Like,
okay, that's what I'm saying. We can consider that approach where, we can still keep.
But most of the information on Compete is public, right? Most of the information is not password protected, or is it? Is everything behind it?
Most of it is password protected, or that's what you're putting in there. Yeah.
Okay, so it's a web page, but it's not a web page.
It's not a web page. Yeah, this is an exception. Yeah,
it's a handbook page. It's better a handbook than it would be in a proprietary system that's kind of, then it resides in one other system.
Okay, it's just a link. It's a link to a bunch of presentations.
Yes.
Ah, okay. Sorry, I thought this was actually a page that was useful by itself.
It's very useful for the sales team. There's one place to go instead of going to different places.
There's now 2 places to go, right?
Yes, there is one place to go for private sort of information that helps them from a comparative standpoint.
I think there's no one who's going to complain if we just put on the page like, hey, presentations, internal presentations, GitLab only, and we put them on Compete.
Sure.
I just think it's really, this is Hayden, by the way, Sid, I understand what you're saying. I just think it's very difficult to have one page that serves both audiences, prospective customers, existing customers, and employees. How do you manage that? Because, is a prospective customer going to be interested in our sales strategy around a competing tool?
I fully agree, Hayden. I think combining the 2 things will be a problem. And there will be some people that say, oh, well, all this information isn't relevant to me. However, I think our biggest problem as a company right now isn't that we have information on a site that isn't relevant to some people. I think our biggest problem is that the information we have is not getting a lot of love. I think our product marketing team is focused very much on the Compete side and on presentations. And this is languishing. If we have a comparison here with things that are missing, and then we have a comparison here with things that are missing, it's like duplicate. Like, we should pick one or the other, and probably we should have something. This looks great. We should have something like this on every page, and it should probably be dynamically generated. But it feels like this page is not getting the kind of the love that it requires. And that's the thing I'm trying to fix. And I'd rather have an ugly page with a lot of out-of-date content than something that was last updated 5 months ago. Because I think our comparison with GitHub changed over the last 5 months. I think we added 5 releases, and I think they changed some things. Right now, that's not being reflected. That is the problem I'm trying to solve. And I'd rather have a page with a lot of irrelevant information than an outdated page. I think an outdated page is the worst.
Correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure what you were looking at, but that page was updated less than 5 months ago. The graphic that we added to that page was updated about a month ago.
Okay.
The other thing is, I believe if you look in the deck, there's a slide that talks about, correct me if I'm wrong, Ashish, or maybe it was in an issue, but it talks about the comparison page and what that mock-up's looking like. Maybe I'm
Right. It's
slide 11.
Slide 11.
Slide 11. So those comparison pages, we have a whole initiative that's outlined there in 11. And maybe we could link to that issue so that you could see the designs that are being, and you could see actually a mock-up of the design there that will be applied to all the comparison pages as we get it done. So that's happening as we speak. And there's actually, I've seen it, a working design comp that's taking that idea of comparison with those graphs to the next level. So I think there's a general agreement with you, and probably we're not moving fast enough, but I don't think there's a difference in opinion about what needs to happen, and there's actions happening towards that.
That makes a ton of sense. Thanks for that, Todd. You're right. It has been updated more recently than 5 months ago. I was looking at the framework, and apparently there's somewhere else you need to actually update the information. I didn't see like recent GitHub developments like code spaces and things like that I think are great GitHub features that I think we should highlight on our competitive page. I know we talked about them internally, so I think we can talk about them externally. The design in slide 11 looks super cool. And then maybe instead of combining the 2 pages, which seems to be an idea that only I am for, and only for reasons of updating, which we can also achieve through other means, maybe cross-link. Maybe that would be a great next step, where we make sure that on our DevOps tool page, we say, hey, if you work at GitLab, we also have this page with a bunch of presentations. And on our compete page, we also say, hey, if you're interested, here's our public comparison page.
Sure.
The other point I'll make is the reason we have that is when you're talking to sales about how we achieve success over our competitors, it's a different conversation, even if some of this information is the same. So I agree, we should have a single source of truth and link to that canon of information, but how you train sales and what to focus on is a different topic and a different audience. And so that's what we were trying to achieve on that page. So just to back up what Hayden said.
Cool.
Are there any other questions? Could you please enter it in the document? Kurt Dusek is asking a question. He says, it seems we use the term prospects and customers to define audience. Seems very broad. Instead, would like to make if it makes more sense to use personas. That's a great question, Kurt. I think John Jeremiah and his team has done excellent work around use cases and personas, and I'm going to let him, step in and give you a quick overview on how we are transitioning, our go-to-market messaging around use cases and personas.
Yeah, no, thanks, Mahesh. I'll jump on that. So we have 2 sets of personas, a set of user personas, which are used in both in product marketing and marketing at large, as far as there's, and I don't really know off the top of my head, I think there's probably 10 or 12 of them that we use to define that the product team uses to define requirements. We use it when we think about messaging and campaigns and building outbound content. We also have a set of buyer personas that we're in the process of iterating on and evolving as well, who are the decision makers in an organization who decide if they're going to make a purchase. And in a similar way, we're iterating on defining those personas because it's important that we both have content and messaging for the people who are using GitLab and also for the people who are in the process of making decisions. So they're actively part of what we do, and it's one that we're continuing to iterate and invest on as we think about building messaging around specific solutions and go-to-market motions that people are, why they're choosing to adopt GitLab. It's a great question. I think when we say prospects and customers, I think we're really generalizing to the larger audience. But when we try to build the messaging, we're thinking much more specific.
Thank you, John. Thanks for that input. Are there any other questions?
And thank you for whoever put the link in the doc. I wasn't fast enough.
Just type my question in a minute. I'm just going to voice it for now, so Mahesh. Could you walk us perhaps through learn@gitlab.com or someone in the team with the goals that you were trying to achieve? And then also with how people can contribute to it, as in either team members or wider community team members?
That's an excellent question. Dan Gordon and his team are leading that effort. So I'm going to hand it over to him to tell you how to participate in that.
Thanks. Thanks for the question. Yes, you said yes, we're learning. Yes, we are learning. So the effort, and I believe I've linked to the epic there as well, is kind of broken into two paths, but the initial idea and the goal is that we want to have more technical educational content more upfront on our website. So technically oriented folks that come looking to learn more about GitLab and what it can do and what values it can provide and how it can do that, have an easy path to get to that. And there's examples in that epic about what our competitors do, what other folks in the industry have. And so the idea is to make that more accessible, more upfront, to lead them into a path that'll help pull them further into the funnel. The way that we're working it is I've been working with a cross-organizational team, a lot of folks on this call, with the docs folks, the customer service folks, marketing, of course, our marketing folks, in looking at how we present that in a single way. So there's a single source of truth for technical content. We're still figuring out the best way to do that. This is that effort as well. So please check out the epic, add yourself onto it. There are some sub issues where we're exploring things like making sure we understand the total set of assets that we currently have and that we are planning to build across the different organizations so that we can coordinate that effort and not be inefficient and have multiple people creating multiple videos or content for the same thing. So check out that epic, add yourself to it. There's a meeting that as we're getting rolling here, we're meeting once a week to coordinate ourselves and have conversation. If you add yourself in that epic that you're interested in joining that, I'm happy to send that meeting information to you as well. But we are, like I said, there's a couple epics, couple issues, and we're moving forward with that. And everybody who's involved in creating content, that's technical content, or consuming it, could advantage from this. So we want to understand the necessary inputs and information metadata that's necessary, so all the different teams can take advantage of this. So,
Thank you.
Yeah, if you're interested, please join up. Help collaborate.
And Kurt Dusek has the next question. Kurt, would you mind verbalizing it?
Sure, yeah. So context is I'm in the channel, I'm a channel solution architect, and we have, as we're bringing on a lot of partners who are super enthusiastic about GitLab and really want to build a DevOps practice with GitLab as a foundation, they want to learn about GitLab in an actionable way. How do I get my developers to know best practices, or how do we solve this situation that's common in our customer base? And so the challenge has been really trying to find consistent material to enable them and empower them to get started with GitLab. So there have been a few instances where we've sent them technical marketing videos, or they've come across a technical marketing page and they understand the concept that technical marketing is expressing, but it's not actionable for them. They're still, they get an overview of what the feature does, but then they still have to go read the documentation to implement it. And sometimes that's challenging. It's almost like trying to learn English from reading the dictionary if you're new to GitLab. And so, you know, the challenge is, again, how do we create like a path to onboard people? And so that's been our challenge, is getting, you know, trying to put out, or at least provide partners with self-service material where they can feel informed and being placed on a road to become service providers and thought leaders and solution providers to their customers around GitLab. And that's kind of dovetails in with the Learn at GitLab initiative, which we're just became aware of yesterday, and we're super enthusiastic about, and we're happy to support. But that's something that's really pulling on our needs that we're seeing from the broader community of organizations that want to support GitLab officially.
A very good viewpoint. The Learn at GitLab, you know, they have initiative for creating better learning paths, and I think Dan Gordon can expand on that a little bit more. It's listed on our future slide. But Dan, why don't you highlight some more on what our plans are there?
Yeah, Kurt, thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, part of this effort definitely, I think, is first from the technical marketing team perspective, at least, what the content you mentioned. We're working on creating videos that showcase the different market requirements that are part of the use cases that that marketing team has identified as the reason customers come to us for help. But the material in general, needing to have more tutorials and deeper content, is something that we're definitely understand that when we do have the use cases, the primary market requirements covered, we'll be switching to doing more deeper tutorials. However, I think when it comes to Learn, an important value here is that there are other organizations, like the TAM organization has an effort that is identify top questions that they are going to do tutorial or more deeper information videos for. And that was a separate effort that we're trying to coordinate with, so that everyone who's creating that type of information, valued information, can put it in a single place so we can all find it and take advantage of it, hook it onto the docs page, et cetera, et cetera. So, so yeah, that's love to have you join us, give us your input on making sure that we do that in the way that that benefits everyone the most.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dan. Joe Drumtra has the next question. Would you mind telling us about that?
Yeah, certainly. So I've really enjoyed the technical marketing content that has been put out of late, and just curious, how do you, I guess, retire or diminish how that shows up as the product evolves to highlight the latest iteration of technical marketing content that would follow up, say on the security dashboard, as it might look drastically different from 13.0 to 13.5. Are those videos retired, or are they stored somewhere else? I've seen quite a few pieces that are maybe 3 years old that are still getting lots and lots of views. So curious how you handle that.
Dan, do you want to take
Good question. Thanks, Joe. Yeah, so yeah, that's a challenge. I'll admit that we do have. We do replace older videos with newer ones when we can. I think there. It would be nice if there was a way in YouTube to link forward, to newer versions of videos or to have versioning of videos. But we expect Learn to help with this too, because we'll be able to meta tag the information about dates and versions, which we are doing. Would also help the process of going through the content and pulling out older stuff. With respect to updating, we, as you guys all know, we move very fast. The UI does, the product does, and I think one of the pieces you might be talking about, when we do a video that shows an overall value that the product provides, sometimes that doesn't get updated as fast as we have the bandwidth to do. But if it still shows the value, but the UI is a little bit out of date, they're still showing the value. So we make a judgment call, and we are trying to get out there and update the older content as much as we can. It's a matter of bandwidth to get that and everything else done. But we do pull older videos down. If you'll notice in Learn, there's an archive area where there's some older content. And so we'll continue to do that. And please, if you identify things that you think that you say, hey, this is looking pretty out of date, and this is a concern, and that we've missed it, then please let me know. Send a mail or hit our channel so that we can get on it and take a look at
We got maybe about a minute. Danielle, you had something on the chat window. Would you mind verbalizing that question for us, please?
Yeah, I was curious if there could be some kind of relationship between the content that partners dot and the learn dot. Seems like with the partners question that came up just a little bit ago, I'm just wondering if we should be watching out for not duplicating content between those two places as well.
That's good feedback. I think we'll take that and answer that offline. And right now, I think we're out of time. Helen?
Yes, we are. But if you want, you could go an extra minute to answer.
Sure. Dan, I know you're working on the whole partner angle also, so maybe you can take this one. I think her question is really around, rationalizing the content at Learn with how we enable partners.
Yeah, absolutely. So the idea is that we do have a central single source of truth for the technical content that we have. It may manifest in different ways. So for example, I know when working with Tina that some of the partner marketing items needs to be presented in a different way or with extra information, but the core content that you might be pointing to, the video showing how to do something, for example, is usually the same. So Learn will help with that, having a centralized set of assets, and then working with the partner team can absolutely be looking at this and saying, okay, what do we share out to partners from this? How do we present it in a way that is meaningful to them? And absolutely, I think anybody who, like I said, partners included, partner team included, that's interested in looking at what's the content that we're going to have available in the inventory. As we build that, now's the time to join in and tell us, okay, this is the kind of tag or metadata information that would be helpful for you to pull out the information you need and present it in the right way. Things like version information or stage and category and all that type of thing. So.
Thank you. Thank you, Dan. We're actually unfortunately out of time. If you have any further questions, please post them into the doc. And now we'll be closing the live stream.